Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters Plus, our program of in-depth reports from our correspondents worldwide. In this edition, Tunisia is facing increasing threats from Islamist terrorists. There have been already deadly attacks that have shocked the world. Attacks in Tunis and the resort of Sousse in 2015 killed at least 70. Tourists were targeted. The Islamic State group has bases just over the frontier in Libya, and for the jihadists, mounting cross-border operations is all too simple. But the terrorists also have a more covert approach, infiltrating local life, promoting their cause. The problem is that since the Arab Spring and the lack of real change in people's lives, more and more young Tunisians are prepared to listen to what they are told is on offer if they join the jihadists. Reporter Grégoire Deniau has been to Tunisia to see firsthand the extent of this movement at a time when violence is growing and Tunisian troops are clashing with Islamist militants along the border. The English version of this report by Josh Vardy.
It's been 5 years since Tunisia ousted its authoritarian leader Zine Al Abidine Ben Ali in a popular uprising that marked the start of the Arab Spring. The revolution spread from Libya to Syria, but hopes of democracy across the region have faded. Young people like Wala Kazmi have been speaking out against the growing influence of radical Islam.
We're calling it Youth Decides. We're currently planning to set up Wi-Fi on Bourguiba Avenue. We're offering free, unlimited internet access to those who want to participate, to be there for the Carthage Cinema Festival. We want young people to go see movies from around the world. Our youth doesn't have much of an alternative, so others are taking advantage of that. Even if it's violent, even if we call it terrorism, and it hurts others, it draws some of them in, simply because they feel empty and excluded.
Can the internet change that?
If we don't use this tool for innovation, for triggering peaceful change, someone else will use it. That's what we're seeing today. I'm talking about the Islamic State group.
Yeah.
I think young people have the ability to change the rules in this country.
Originally, I'm a cyber activist. New technologies are a weapon, so let's be armed because the future is ours. That's all there is to it.
The good thing about the revolution is that we managed to ensure a peaceful democratic transition.
After work, Asma Musa meets with her artist friends who all took to the streets 5 years ago. During the so-called Jasmine Revolution, these artists were marching against Ben Ali's regime alongside the Islamists. They still say they feel closer in spirit to the Salafists than to the government, who they accuse of hijacking the spirit of the revolution.
For us, the real terrorist is the state.
Even during the Ben Ali era, we did the same things that we do today. It's true that things are a little easier and more accessible today. But nothing has really changed. When the revolution began, many people came to us, but they used us for their own interests.
Everyone is free to do as they please. In Tunisia, young people respect each other. Artists aren't threatened by the Salafists. There were a few isolated incidents, but these were caused by extremists, not Salafists. It's important to make the distinction between the two.
For many people, religion's like meditation. It allows them to focus on their beliefs and their problems. It's like music for artists or a beer for others. It brings joy to their lives.
There isn't really any conflict between artists and Salafists, because we both come from the same background. Salafists don't have a problem with us artists or rappers. Their conflict is with the state and with the police. That's who they target. And we have problems with the state as well. We've had them since the start, even before the Salafists came.
Following the revolution, the Salafists came out of the shadows. With Ben Ali gone, they were finally able to hold public rallies. After the terror attacks in Tunis, however, they have become more discreet. Activist Yahya Hasmi has been involved in politics for years. He represents Islamist party Tahrir, which was banned for over 70 years until 2012.
Purchasing power has dropped considerably. It's particularly hard for those with few resources. Even the middle class suffered a big drop in their standards of living. Nothing works as it should. The government is in another world. The president is disconnected from reality. The ministers don't do their work properly. They don't have the required means to meet their commitments.
So it's not going well.
Yes, our government is like a lame duck.
For the owners of these market stalls, everything depends on how much they can sell. Like Yahya Hasmi, they're also going through a rough patch. They say that life was much easier under Ben Ali.
Let me tell you something honestly. It's a shame we lost Ben Ali. There was a lot more prosperity during the Ben Ali era than there is now. It's true that he and a select few used to live in another world, but at least there was a real middle class that stood up for the disenfranchised and allowed them to get by.
Wealth and prosperity left with Ben Ali. May God strike down those who pushed him away.
Yahya Hasmi's party boycotted the last elections. He says politicians are worthless and only religion can help Tunisia rise from the ashes.
First, we need to understand what sparked the revolution. It was very emotional, and unfortunately, the political parties didn't take it seriously right from the start. So we can say that the revolution was dead and buried before it even started. I have my own political views. I believe in a project that revolves around religion, and I will defend it relentlessly. I'm doing all I can for this project to see the light of day. It's for everyone, for Muslims and non-Muslims, for believers and non-believers.
Aren't you afraid that these kind of political parties could radicalize the youth even more?
For starters, we are a political party, not a terrorist organization that seeks to impose its views through violence.
Do you understand why some of these young people are being radicalized?
Of course I understand. They do it because they're worried. We are going to prohibit the sale of alcohol, which means there won't be any more whiskey or vodka coming in for the enjoyment of a few. Alcohol is forbidden by Islam, and the government should respect that. The state needs to protect its citizens.
There has been a state crackdown in Tunisia, but not the one Yahya Hasmi has been calling for. Now it's the Islamists who are being targeted. Hundreds have been arrested in just a few months. Hisham is currently under house arrest.
This is the last stamp that proves I entered Tunisia on December 24th.
Hisham recently travelled to Libya and Turkey, among other places. Despite shaving off his beard, his beliefs remain the same.
When I got back from Turkey, I got a phone call from my family. They were worried. They asked me what I'd done. Everybody was looking for me. They wanted me to come home, to help me. I was accused of being a terrorist. How's this possible? Me, a terrorist? My family told me that the police had searched our house. My brother was arrested. The police dragged him out barefooted. He stayed in jail for 7 days. Because my brother was arrested after the 9/11 attacks, and because he's suspected of being a radical, all of our family is being blacklisted. I'm under constant surveillance. We're searched all the time.
Hisham tries to avoid the police by keeping a low profile.
For the past 3 years, I haven't been praying at the mosque, only at home. If I go to the mosque, I get arrested immediately. What's democracy? It's simply the daily freedom to choose, including freedom of beliefs, whatever your religion, Salafi, Christian, atheist, within reasonable limits. Today, that doesn't exist here. Democracy is a smokescreen to promote the country's image abroad. But concretely, none of these democratic values exist in Tunisia.
In Tunisia, people like Hisham must live alongside more pragmatic young people. For them, it's all about finding work. Around 20% of the population is unemployed, a situation that falls heaviest on the young.
A girl asks her boyfriend, "What do you do?" And he says, "I'm a fisherman in Kairouan." "But there's no sea in Kairouan," she says. And he replies, "Since when is there work in Tunisia?" Me, for example, I'm a director, but after 4 years I'm going to realize that this line of work isn't adapted to my needs anymore, and I'll need to find a new job.
How long will we have to endure this misery? We've got expenses, things we need to buy. How are we going to make a living? Am I going to have to give in to temptation and start selling drugs and contraband like others?
You know, it's questions without answers that lead people to extremism. Someone who lives in harsh conditions is going to ask, "How can I make ends meet?" And after years not making any progress, definitely he'll get radicalized.
I'm not trying to incite a rebellion, but that's the reality we live in. The young person who lives in a remote area, who quit school at 12 to work and support his family, who's marginalized, ignored by the state. Of course, he's going to join the jihadists in the mountains if they offer him 50,000 dinars, if only for revenge. That's why we have attacks and explosions.
Hamdi Jouini lives an hour and a half away from capital Tunis, the only place where he can still find work, but he can't afford to live there.
Hi, how are you? This is my friend Adele. He manages this clothing store.
And how is business around here?
For him it's going well, because many young people come to buy clothes in his shop. And he also gets some help.
I still owe you money, by the way.
Is it better to be in Tunis to find a job in your line of work?
Yes, it's better if you live in Tunis, and not just in my line of work. This is my neighborhood. I grew up and studied here. All my friends who I grew up with live here. It's a working class neighborhood, far from the center, and the government doesn't give it much attention, meaning it's difficult to find work here.
Like 35% of Tunisians who've completed higher education, Hamdi still lives with his parents. His mother and father continue to support him and remain hopeful for the future.
This was when I was an art student. A friend of mine drew this picture of me for fun. There is no work in this country.
A little patience and things will change. Patience, my son. Nobody finds a job right after their studies. You need to wait, and you'll get your chance.
He finished his studies like everyone else. After high school, he got his bachelor's and then his master's degree. But he still can't find work. We've spent and sacrificed so much all these years.
All of the government's problems are because of strikes.
No, Mum, that's just what they want you to believe.
It's definitely the strikes, my son.
Your problem is that you always get your information through the media and television. But I'm telling you, our country is fine. There are people who want to work, and there are plenty of jobs. But they want things to stay as they are, that's all. What they say in the media doesn't reflect reality.
Hamdi may be frustrated with the Tunisian government, but he still believes that the country can bounce back.
I'll never be disappointed by the outcome of the revolution. Because I'm convinced that the movement will take time to bear fruit. Unfortunately, we're the ones who have to suffer the consequences of this revolution. But I'll be proud tomorrow when I'll see my children and grandchildren able to live a better life.
Fawzi Aloumi, who runs Tunisia's biggest company, has different concerns. Today he's meeting with a group of managers to discuss development projects abroad. The issue of unemployment does not affect his business, nor his family.
Salim, my son, studied engineering in Canada and business at the Montreal Business School. Now he takes care of international development. So what information do we have?
The target is to finalize the deal for our unit orders in Brazil, Sao Paulo.
Finding qualified personnel isn't a problem. Bourguiba gave absolute priority to education. And now Tunisians are among the most educated people in the world. But there is a divide between education and the actual needs of businesses. Many businesses have trouble recruiting people who were trained in school and then turning them into fully operational employees.
Aloumi owns several production sites in Tunisia, all equipped with the latest technology. Operations are handled by his Tunisian employees.
Here we produce electrical distribution systems for cars and other vehicles.
I see you have a lot of female employees.
Yes, but we also employ men. It's true that there are a lot of women working here.
So you see a bright future for women in Tunisia?
Yes. Even when it comes to education. Today, 65% of university students are women.
Aren't you scared that the rise of extremism could affect the way Tunisian women are educated?
No. I think extremism is a fad. It will die out. It may catch on a bit at first. But after a while, there always needs to be a balance between modern and conservative values. It's all about cultural adjustment. That means Tunisians have to get used to working in a competitive business environment. We have fully entered a modern and democratic world.
However, the Tunisian economy has crumbled since the revolution. The tourist industry has shrunk and productivity has dropped, which in turn has given investors cold feet. Meanwhile, public spending has increased. Is the Tunisian economy doing well?
Today, you can't really say that the economy is doing well. But it's not doing poorly either. I would say it's doing as well as it possibly can, considering the circumstances and considering what Tunisia has been through these past 5 years. Investments have significantly diminished, unemployment has gone up, the country's debt has doubled, even though it's still manageable. If the country is stable, if there is security, and if investors are confident, then development will come automatically.
What are the biggest worries for investors?
There are a lot of concerns about the unions, especially with all these illegal strikes. Investors lose confidence when they see people going on strike without any notice. It's chaotic. It bothers investors and they lose confidence.
Aloumi is both a businessman and a politician. After work, he has an appointment at the headquarters of the party of which he is vice president. There he addresses the worries of those who still think overthrowing Ben Ali was a mistake.
On dit toujours c'était mieux avant.
People always say it was better before. And it's true that we're in an economic slump, which wasn't the case before. There are obstacles, but we need to keep a general perspective. 5 years is nothing in the life of a nation. We obtained democracy and freedom of speech. Now we need to win the battle of development. We need to stay committed to our political, economic, social, and cultural models.
Elumi has been in politics for around 25 years. Under Ben Ali, he worked as a mayor and an MP. Now he's learning the new system of democracy like everyone else. His party, Nida Tunis, is now the second biggest in the country.
Let's organise a first conference on January 10th and an electoral gathering on July 30th and 31st, 2016.
Let's organise our ideas.
In any case, we're going to draw up a list of all our proposals.
I think we should create a special committee to deal with this. We received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2015 with the Tunisian National Dialogue Quartet. And keeping in line with those principles, we tried to solve problems through dialogue and consensus.
Even within our own party.
There have been a few disputes and differences inside the party.
5 years on, do you think this revolution has been beneficial for Tunisia and Tunisian politics?
Of course. It released a lot of energy, and it freed people from their shackles. And today, everyone feels free. Of course, now we need to regulate this newfound freedom. And we need to set certain limits for people, while guaranteeing freedom of speech, as it's done in other democratic countries.
The benefits of the revolution haven't reached everywhere. 4 hours' drive south of Tunis, there are no soldiers nor police to protect the locals, who are under constant threat from extremist groups based in the surrounding mountains. A 16-year-old from the village was recently found decapitated.
We've known there were terrorists here for a long time. We know they're here, hiding in the mountains. There's a water source right here, and when the night falls, the terrorists come down to drink and stock up on water. My son was a shepherd. One day he took the sheep to the mountains and spent the day up there with them. As usual, he was with a friend and our dog. But when the sun went down, my son hadn't come back yet. He's not usually late, so I was worried. I was waiting for him to come home. That's when I saw his friend. He was holding something in his hand, a bag. He told his brother that terrorists had killed Mabruk in the mountain. Terrorists cut off my son's head, and it was there, in that bag.
That's the mountains where the terrorists are hiding, the one we're scared of. We can feel that the terrorists have more reach here than the law does. They can attack us at any time. They slaughtered a child, so we expect them to hurt us more. There are solutions to get rid of this threat. We have a government and a constitution and everything we need to act. This isn't Libya where there isn't a government. We voted for a parliament and a president. So it's their responsibility to deal with the problem, isn't it? In the end, it's the poorest who bear the heaviest burden in Tunisia, while the rich and the capitalists are enjoying themselves. That's all I have to say.
Here in the mountains, not much has changed since the revolution. The government faces one of its toughest challenges in protecting and integrating these rural communities. Maintaining national unity is now vital if the country is to remain the only hope of the Arab Spring.
The voice of Josh Vardy on our report by Grégoire Deniau. This is Reporters Plus. Stay with us here on France 24.